Okay, we'll go ahead and call to order the work session of the East Grand Forks City Council for Tuesday, January 13th, 2026 at 5 p.m. Would the city administrator please call roll?
Mayor Mark Olsted.
Here.
Council President Brian Larson.
Here.
Council Vice President Tim Riepel.
Here.
Council Members Tammy Schumacher.
Here.
Ben Pokshavinsky.
Here.
Dale Helms.
Here.
Donald Gazmi.
Here.
Karen Peterson.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Just a reminder to turn on your microphones if you're speaking. And we'll just get into the agenda here. Item number 1, request to rezone East Grand Forks Schools ISD 595 property from R1 to PUD and consider special use permit application for a ground-mounted solar energy system. Ms. Ellis.
So ISD 595 got the opportunity through a grant to construct a ground-mounted solar power system to help power the schools. They chose the middle school as the location. We have a solar power ordinance that does not allow for ground-mounted systems in residential areas. And in order for you to have one, then you also have to have a special use permit. So while the school property isn't necessarily residential, it's zoned residential because it's that's how we zone most of our institutional buildings, whether it be government or churches or any type of government or institutional type facilities. So in order for them to build the ground-mounted system, we have to rezone the property from R1 to a planned unit development, which is pretty consistent with the area. Nothing's going to change on the property. The school is going to remain the same. We're not gonna allow them to then, all of a sudden put up housing or change like the use itself of the property that they're sitting on. Once they do that, then, and if the rezone is approved, then they go into the special use permit. Again, special use permits, we consider things like congestion, traffic, noise, dust, hours of operation. This really doesn't pertain to what the use of the special use is. The special use itself is just the solar power system and being ground mounted. So we're looking at a couple of things specifically from the ordinance, which is the height of the ground mounted system and then the setbacks, and they comply with both. The other consideration that we would want to look at is the location of it, because it can't really be in a front yard or somewhere where it would obstruct or if traffic were driving by or people, we wouldn't want it to be glaring or in appearance, draw their attention, so to speak. So this will be going into the back of the property, behind the middle school, south of the tennis courts, kind of butting up against our flood control structure. So really don't foresee any issues with either of the requests. We have had some calls from community members just asking how this affects their property, because we do have to notify everyone within 350 feet, which it doesn't, and so none of them had any concerns once it was explained to them. So we do have the superintendent here. He could maybe explain it a little bit more, but that's kind of the gist of where we're headed. This will go to Planning Commission tomorrow and then back to Council for formal consideration next Tuesday.
Thank you. And Mr. Grover, if you have anything else to add?
You did a very good job. There's a Solar for Schools project or grant that there have been several rounds of, and that's what we applied for, up to $500,000. We got the $500,000 grant. There is then a couple other pieces that came in, like a Made in America grant, it's called U.S. Domestic Material Grant, as well as an ITC direct pay. So in the picture of a $1.2 million solar project, the school will be on the hook for about $200,000. I understand with the city being a utility provider, it's kind of, trying to reduce our use, but I see it as a good thing for taxpayers. The payback is under 4 years as a conservative effort, and so long term, it's a good thing for not only the district, but the taxpayer. And so we are appreciative of the consideration. We have been, went through the 2 rounds and are approved in both. So as long as we can get the go-ahead, we will work again with the city to get all requirements met as far as the electrical piece, and would hope to get it installed this summer. Part of the consideration has a nice black chain link fence that will go around it to keep more so snowmobiles and things like that out of it. Yeah, the hope is it's between the 2 buildings, behind, kind of out of, and then there is an educational piece requirement too. So there will be some classwork that goes along with it, as far as, a variety of things. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Ellis or Mr. Grover? Mr. Helms?
Yeah, you got a plan set in there for keeping the snow off of them? You have, because if they build up the snow, you got to clean them in order to get them.
Yep, and the material, it's actually a Minnesota-made product, actually, Mountain Iron, there's another place. And supposedly whatever the covering is, it's pretty good on them. They do, if it does build up, recommend going out and blowing them off. But for the most part, they're supposed to be fairly hands-off. Like they said, a freezing something or other, there could be. Warranty on them, the panels themselves have a 20-year. There is a degradation, that they do not produce the exact same amount year 1 as they do, year 20. The inverters have a 10-year. So it's really, in essence, a low risk, for the district once it's up as far as, producing. And again, I'll be the first to admit I'm not an expert in this area, and obviously they did the studies. The interesting part, and I was mentioning, when we put the RFP out, we had 10 different companies that responded, 12 or 13 proposals. Some of them put in a couple, and they were just amazed at the interest right now. And so it was competitive. We think we're getting the biggest bang for the buck, meaning the best panel and the biggest array for the dollar value.
So you said you're expecting a return in 4 years?
Under 4 years, it should pay for itself.
Is that just for the $200,000 you're putting in?
For what we're putting in. The rest is all grant. The rest is all no taxpayer. And when I say no taxpayer, obviously federal money, state money, this and that is taxpayer money. But from the district, it's under 200,000, and conservatively, they all had to use I think it was 18% rate of to bid on, so that they're apples to apples, not one company's trying to say theirs is less than others. And it came back at 3.5, 3.6, something like that years. But according to a couple of them, they think it'll be less. But that's the number that they had to use.
The reason I was asking that is because I know Minnesota Power was going to do that north of town, and they backed out of it because they wouldn't get a return back out of it in 20 years, I think they said, right?
So you were talking about MMPA?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we backed out for some other reasons there. It had to do with it was in the floodplain for the solar project, and then when we were going to do the wind project, it was the stability and some other issues why we backed out. We didn't back out for anything.
I thought there was something said about the return on their investment they wouldn't get back out of it in 20 years.
No.
But now, if we had to pay like the 1.2 million, pay the whole thing, or even half, definitely change the payback period, and that's why even right now we had to technically put some money down. We can get it back if for some reason it doesn't go through, but with Ziegler's before the end of the calendar year.
That was the federal funding was going
Correct.
away.
And so
in order to get that, they had to get going by the end of the year, and then you got to be constructing it by next year, by the end of the year. Yeah.
So now, is there any noise that's going to come off of these things? Have you heard anything about that, or?
There shouldn't be, other than whatever
even-
a transformer puts off. Sometimes you hear some buzzing if you walk up close.
Or even heat. I mean, it's supposedly. I know it is in Arizona. They explained it to me that they're pretty noisy and they put off a lot of heat.
Yeah, I don't know about the noise. I mean, you see them on the way to the cities, and there's a number of them put up that you can see there.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah, and then the smaller one, the demonstration one, has a few of them put up by what the school there we already have. That's tiny comparison to this one, but yeah, if you're going to do it, that's about as good a place as any to do it. And with all I thought when I read that it was even better than that as far as the ratio of.
Well, they had to all bid, or, use the same number, and that's what they say, a conservative approach on the payback.
Yeah,
And
so I mean,
so-
we, of course, like he says, we'll sell less energy, but it will help us on our peak times too. So if they're taking some off the peak, that there's a cost to that as well. So I have no issues at all. We're kind of ahead of the game. We're working on the applications. He's got a project application right now that they're working on, and when they're done with that, then we'll get going on a couple contracts. MMPA will sell them the power directly, but they'll have a contract with MMPA, and then they'll have a contract with us. And then beyond that, we just want to make sure everything's inspected, and our staff will take care of that, and our engineers will make sure it's done right.
Yeah, I'm not sitting here saying I'm against the project by no means. I'm just asking these
No,
questions.
they're good questions.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Mr. Pakshavinsky.
Thank you. Nancy, the land around that directly, is that a residential plan in the future, or is there any plan for that land directly around it?
Not the school property.
Yep.
Anything to the south of it is out of city limits.
Okay.
So everything to the north of it is already zoned. Everything to the west of it is out of city limits.
Sure.
So
I just wonder, eventually, that neighborhood is probably going to grow around the school at some
yes,
point?
it won't grow on the side where the solar solar panels are, because that's our flood control.
The dike is there.
Yep, the dike is there, so. And they own quite a bit south, and they own quite a bit north. So unless the school district themselves were to sell property,
Sure.
we'd be quite a distance
Okay.
from
So
them.
there's no like residential road that's going to be going by that, and someone might build a house across the street from it?
That was discussed. As you recall, there has been some discussion of trying to build a backage road to eliminate some of the traffic off of Bigland. Again, that would possibly be, something in the future, but since it's the school district's property, there's not a lot we can
Yeah.
do,
Yeah,
plan for.
Again, I'm like totally for this. I think it's a great idea. I'm
Yeah.
just,
It would, I don't think we had any homes, as you recall, Steve, when we conceptually drew it, that would be close to that area. I mean,
I can't remember.
because we wouldn't have any homes behind the school. So it would be to the north of it, and then the road, obviously would then have to go around the solar panels and connect on the south side. But we didn't have any homes south of that conceptually drawn, and we didn't have anything. It was all north of, I think, even the baseball fields.
right, so we don't
So,
anticipate ever
yeah.
having a residential home anywhere
No,
close to
no.
that. So
Nope,
my
not,
concern is just like if someone were to build a house, or like
Yes.
developer to buy that land, it's almost going to be impossible to try and sell a parcel that's like looking at a solar panel.
yes, yeah, no. So everything that we had conceptually drawn, I'm certain that it was north of the baseball fields, because we wouldn't be able to put anything besides the baseball fields.
Sure.
So it was kind of where the current soccer fields kind of are.
Right.
And then the road was just going to extend beyond and kind of
Right.
loop in
And
behind.
That's a ways away from that.
Yes, yeah.
Awesome.
And there's 117 feet from the edge of the solar, like the fence to the toe of the dike.
To the property line.
To the property, which is probably about the toe of the dike there. And we could fit a standard roadway in 117 feet would give us enough room to slope
Yeah.
the road back there, if there was a future development.
And if there is concern, I mean, that's it could be made more square. I mean, I'm just throwing it out that, that's what they
Yeah,
could fit
that-
in. And
There's
Could it
plenty of
ever
room
be
there, isn't there?
rotated like 45 degrees or whatever to be almost parallel with the tennis court there, kind of rotated so it was parallel with the tennis court?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
there is, I mean,
Yeah, they can adjust it as long as they got the area. I mean, because you're going to be coming into those points with your lines, you know.
I don't know if it helps much.
I'm not concerned that we couldn't get a road in there, because without any homes being built near it, we don't need an 80-foot right-of-way, so, which is what our typical road right-of-way is, so.
And the only thing maybe I'm misspeaking a little bit, as far as the sun and how it grabs the sun, maybe they've got to be placed in a certain position for that, so I mean, I don't want to overstep there.
No, we can make it work.
Yeah. Do they rotate or do they?
no,
They're stationary.
I mean, they're fixed. They
Yeah.
don't move on their own or controlled or
Okay.
anything. I mean, obviously, they could be adjusted, I'm sure.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further questions? I see none. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 2. Discussion on planned cannabis retail location operated by White Earth Nation at 926 Central Avenue Northwest. Mr. Huttunen.
All right. Thank you, Council President and members, and Mr. Gallstead and Nancy, Ms. Ellis. If there's anything you want to jump in and help me with on this one, please feel free to. A number of weeks ago, probably about 3 weeks ago, Nancy's office, Community Development, got a building permit request, initially a demolition permit request for the Burger King location, and in the site plan, it was labeled that it was for a dispensary, cannabis dispensary. So we started some outreach to the contractor that submitted the application, and quickly got a response back that White Earth Nation, traditionally based out of White Earth and Monoman area of the state, was working to acquire the property for that purpose, to open a cannabis dispensary. We have done a lot of legwork since then. Mr. Gallstead, Nancy, myself, looking at a tribal compact that the state of Minnesota signed with White Earth Nation in May of 2025, and learning about how that tribal compact interacts with local ordinances, and ultimately have learned that the tribal compact allows the tribe to essentially issue its own licenses to operate cannabis retail. In issuing their own license, they're not required to receive a local registration, like is traditionally required by the state's license through the Office of Cannabis Management. And further, it allows them to operate those retail stores off of tribally regulated land. They can, by the compact that's signed with the state, have up to 8 stores operating across the state of Minnesota, no more than 1 store in any single municipality, and no more than 3 stores in any single county. White Earth Nation currently has stores in Moorhead and in St. Cloud, Minnesota, and again has indicated an interest in being here in East Grand Forks. So we to date have not issued the permits. We have held on to those applications, 1 for review. The building officials have begun review of them, but 2, and more so in an effort to notify the council, as we have learned and understood what the compact means as it relates to our set cap. We had, as you all remember, previously set a limit of 2 retail stores. And by the compact, the 2 store limit essentially doesn't apply to White Earth Nation. There is a possible avenue the city could go down where we are allowed inside the state statute for cannabis to count a tribal store as one of the stores in our limit. But again, to reiterate, the count doesn't go the reverse way. The tribal, if we already have our limit, the tribal doesn't have to abide by that. So this is largely for notification purposes. Again, the applications have been received and they are going to have to be acted on fairly soon. We don't have, and Ron can speak to it too, but we don't feel as though we have any sound reasoning or grounds to protest the tribal compact itself and White Earth Nation's ability to operate within the city within that compact. There are potential few questions and issues that still are out there that we're hoping to get some clarity on. One being in the tribal compact itself, talking about taxation. In the tribal compact, it states that tribally regulated dispensaries or retail locations off of tribal land are not subject to sales tax or use tax, cannabis, or regular. Then on the side of that, the State Office of Cannabis Management webpage and local government guide that has been produced state the opposite. That website states that tribally regulated stores off tribal land are subject to local and state sales and use taxes. So that question is out there. We've sent that question to Office of Cannabis Management. Haven't gotten a clear answer back yet, but hopefully we'll get that soon. And then the compact itself and the information that the Office of Cannabis Management has publicized is silent on property tax, whether or not the tribe will be subject to pay property tax on the property. We believe they will, but we're not certain of that. Since it'll be a for-profit business, even though it's regulated by the tribe, we believe they will be subject to pay property tax. But we'll further clarify that. The location, again, is 926 Central Avenue. That's the old Burger King location. Just kind of going through the checklist. That is clear and free of the buffer zones that we set within our regulation. In the tribal compact, it does state that they will follow the state's kind of maximum buffer that they had identified in statute was 1,000 feet from schools and 500 feet from parks or places where kids populate, or residential treatment facilities, things of that nature, daycares. They either need to follow that or the local jurisdiction if the local jurisdiction is less than that. And so ours, again, is 600 feet from schools, 350 feet from parks, daycares, residential treatment facilities. So the location they've selected in this case is free and clear of the buffers that they need to abide by. As far as hours of operation of the store, they need to follow the hours of operation that's set in state statute and that we've set in our local ordinance. I think maybe one piece of it, kind of aside, just to go through it all, aside from the White Earth request itself, part of the conflict we've had when we've been reviewing it is tribal compacts themselves. Currently, there are 8 tribal compacts signed by different tribes across the state. One of the tricky parts of this is that in none of the tribal compacts does it identify geographic areas of the state where they will operate their stores, and it doesn't say that if one tribe is already in East Grand Forks that another won't go there. So they don't have to follow our local cap, and hypothetically, if another tribe wanted to come, even though White Earth is already here and we already have potentially 2 others, there's nothing locally that we can do to pause that. The state's compact doesn't speak to it. Again, that's a question we've asked for clarification, but we haven't gotten a real clear answer on, other than yes, it appears that as many as want to could come, but would the market support that many stores is kind of always the follow-up question. But the hypothetical being that could be an issue that could arise either here or in some other community in Minnesota. And then just kind of quick update on the 2 that we gave preliminary approval to, the downtown and the highway locations earlier in 25. Both of those are still, as far as the Office of Cannabis Management has informed us, are both working through their full licensing process. Of course, we gave them preliminary approval to move forward with getting a property identified. As part of that, they need to complete their licensing with the state. And from the time they were selected for a potential license or a lottery, they get 18 months to do that through the state. And that, the best answer I've been given so far is that process is ongoing for both of those. So there is really no defined timeline that I'm aware of when those stores would apply for a site registration through the state. They need to get a license. They need to apply for a site registration and go through review by the State Office of Cannabis Management. And that's what triggers them sending a request to again, the local jurisdiction through Ms. Ellis's office for full zoning and compliance review before we would issue them a registration. So as far as I can tell, one, we don't have a really clear identified timeline on when that might happen, and two, it appears to be months out, if at all, just in the amount of time that process will take once they even get their full licensure. So those are kind of the updates. I guess we'd take any questions anyone would have on this process.
All right, thanks, Reid. Any questions? Go ahead, Ben.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reid, couple questions. Are they tearing the Burger King building down and building something new, or are they renovating the building?
Renovating the building.
Renovation.
Okay. Now, I know our ordinance says that we'll only allow 2, and I don't want to back out on the 2 that already have pending applications, or that are like pending going through the process. Can we modify the ordinance to say 1? And then the 2 that are there, they go through. If one of them goes out of business, then we're down, we've still got 1. Because we cannot, what you're telling, what I'm understanding is White Earth's coming, there's no way to stop them. Not saying that I want to stop them, just like they don't count towards our quota, but if we, as a city, want there to only be 2, but now we're kind of forced into allowing a 3rd to be here, I think it would be better to have an ordinance that has a limit of 1, because there's this backdoor to get a second one as it is. So I guess that would be a question probably for Ron.
But there's a backdoor to have,
Right,
like 9.
right.
Theoretically, if there's currently 8 compacts.
Yeah, it's Mr. Bukshinsky. It's a good question. Certainly, Ron would need to think and advise on that. It's possible. Just kind of remind the group. The Minnesota statute requires 1 per 13,500 residents. So that was our minimum. We needed to at least allow 1. Or the alternative option was to give up all jurisdictional rights and hand it to the county. And then the Polk County's population being about 30,000, they would be required to meet that same requirement, so they'd have to have 3. And if we gave that right up, going back to the beginning of this, if we gave the right up to have local jurisdiction over it, and we gave it to the county could potentially come and put all 3 in East Grand Forks if they had chosen to, right? So we were maintaining some control by setting our own limits rather than giving that control to the county. So we're statutorily, yes, we could reduce it to 1. The part we need to work through is, we've already started that process of 2 others. It would need to be, I guess, in my view, too, a recommendation would be that it would be if for some reason they can't get the business off the ground or they go out of business, that's maybe when we would pivot to that
Right.
new requirement.
Yeah, I think the city would be in iffy waters if we reversed it now and just said it's 1 and then, try to pick and choose which of the 2 we're going with.
And I do know that the one of the other 2 has already contacted our office. They're going to be submitting demo and building plans as soon as they kind of know. They want to move forward.
Right.
So. But they're willing to wait to see what the council has to say, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Mr. Helms.
thank you. So this tribal one would be considered another out-of-business district one, right? Because we decided that was a business district there, correctly?
That's highway commercial.
That's highway commercial. That's zoned as highway commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our initial ordinance says 1 in downtown commercial, 1 in highway commercial.
Okay.
This would potentially be a 2nd in highway commercial.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So, and this is just, you mentioned that, was it 350 feet from a daycare,
Yeah.
right? So what would happen if they opened this up, actually any of these places opened it up? And, because I know how we've been working trying to get daycare centers and everything. If somebody wanted to open up a daycare that's closer to that 350 feet,
Yeah.
Is that going to stop them from doing that?
Our understanding of that has been if they're there first, if they are already located there before a childcare center opens, they are okay to stay.
But the
Yeah.
childcare could still open?
The childcare could still open. They would now be known. They would know their neighbors, and they'd be making that decision on their own account to open that close to one. Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Huttunen or Ms. Ellis? Okay, I see none. Appreciate the update. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 3 then. Review bid results and consideration of award for 2026 City Project number 3 trail improvements. Mr. Emery.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, council. So yeah, we opened bids for the city's trail improvement project last Thursday, January 8th. We did receive a total of 3 bids. The apparent low bidder for the project is R.J. Zavril and Sons. And as you can see, kind of looking, at the bid tabulation, bids were, fairly competitive between, I'd say, Zavril's and Off Construction. But looking at Zavril's estimate for, I guess I'm looking at kind of proposals 1 through 4. Zavril's came in about $84 cheaper than where my engineer's estimate was at. So felt pretty good about that we, did receive good pricing. So with that, kind of on the RCA, I did put together kind of anticipated project costs, assuming we did move ahead with proposals 1 and 4. You can kind of see there we would have a total construction cost of about $319,452. And again, at this time, I did include a 10% construction contingency, which I think is just good practice. That way if we have any change orders, anything like that, we do kind of have some of that built into kind of the budget right now. Again, as a reminder, funding for the project would be through the Greenway Maintenance Fund, which as of January 8th had a balance of about $292,000. That fund generates about $9,500 a month, so we're anticipating about the first part of June, the earliest the project would start, we'd be at a balance of about $349,000. So kind of showing we would have adequate funding or adequate funds to pay for that project. So I guess my recommendation, assuming we got good pricing, we got a good contractor, I guess I would be looking to recommend that proposals 1, 2, 3, and 4 would be awarded to Zavril's, R.J. Zavril and Sons, in the amount of $261,320. So I guess with that, I'll open up for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Emery. Any questions for Mr. Emery or Mr. Huttunen? I see none. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item number 4, request to purchase a Toro 4110D mower with snowblower attachment. Mr. King.
Thank you, Council President, City Council, and Mayor. We are looking to update one of our mower and snowblower pieces of equipment. We received a state contract price from MTI to update a 4110D mower. This piece of equipment gets used all year round. In the summer, obviously, it has a 10-foot mower on it, and it mows our parks, trails, green space. And then in the winter, we transfer it over to a snow blower and use it for snow removal. This is a budgeted item for 2026. We had $130,000 set in the budget for this equipment purchase. The final estimate did come back a little bit higher at $132,545.26. This item will be financed through our equipment fund, so over 9 years to make up that difference in the pricing. It would be replacing a 455D, which is the model prior to this. We have two 455Ds that are in need of a replacement. What we'll do is we'll figure out which one is in worse condition. The lead time on this piece of equipment is about 6 months. So if we ordered it after the council meeting, we could probably potentially have it about the 1st of June.
And the unit that you would replace is about 20 years old?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. King? Mr. Riopel, then we'll go to Dale.
Couldn't you part out the other one in case you needed parts for?
And that's the problem with having to get rid of these ones. They don't make the parts for them. We do have a couple. I would say for both of those pieces of equipment, we've scavenged all our useful parts off other pieces of equipment.
If they're two of them are the same and you're getting rid of
We
one,
could do that. We could hold on to one.
use it for parts.
They're both, the snow blowers on those two are already, for lack of a better term, a Frankenstein snow blower. So we've built snow blowers based off used parts that we've already have. And it becomes more and more challenging. I guess, yeah, to your point, we could hold on to both of them, use instead of surplusing the one and scavenge to continue.
You're not
to
going to
use
get
those
much
parts.
for it anyways.
No, we just put it,
Scrap.
when talking with MTI on trade-in, they said they didn't want to entertain the idea of a trade-in, so surplusing it through the city auction or getting someone to purchase it locally would be our only options.
Great, thank you. Mr. Helms?
Yeah, thank you. Is this new one, is it a belly mount mower or is it a front?
Front mower.
So it's basically, it's just the new version of the 450.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. I have a couple questions on the bid here. Rotating beacon, is that just a
Safety
yellow
light.
on the top or a white light?
Yeah, safety amber.
$340, can't we do that in a city shop a lot cheaper?
You know, these newer mowers come with a lot more difficult electronics to work on. Without knowing those mechanics' capability into some of those newer lighting type components, I think that we'd be better off just ordering it directly from the manufacturer this way. Knowing that we won't have to worry about voiding our warranty or anything like that if we start plugging into different electrical components and end up shorting out something. That way it comes directly from the factory with all that and covered under warranty and everything.
And then what is the North American road light kit for 2,000?
That's what makes it street legal, so that has the lights on the side of it and
Turn signals and everything?
yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Any further questions for Mr. King? All right, I see none. Okay, thanks, Jeremy. Looks like you're here for the next one, too. Item number 5 is the request to set pricing for the 160 niche Columbarium at Resurrection Cemetery.
Thank you again. As of yesterday, we set our new columbarium that you all approved back in February of 2025. We met with the Cemetery Commission and we came up with pricing that we feel is fair for those new columbarium niches. Outlined below, this is a reminder, these are all companion niches, so this is 160 niche columbarium means that it has 80 openings and holds 160 urns. Included with this fee, you get the open and closing fee and the cost of the plaque. For an additional cost, you can purchase a flower vase. The revenue from the sale of these niches goes back to replenish the perpetual care fund. And it was recommended through the Cemetery Commission. We did some research and called around to some other cemeteries in the area, and we feel that this is a very fair price for these. It is a little bit of a price increase from the ones we purchased back in 2020, but also the columbarium price almost doubled from the last one we bought in 2020. So anticipating higher prices when we go to purchase the other one, we'll need to set those higher to keep the perpetual care fund in good shape.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. King? All right, thanks, Jeremy. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, request to order a 2026 Ford Police Interceptor. Chief Hedlund.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excuse me. requesting to purchase a 2026 Ford Fleece SUV. This would be replacing our 2018 Ford F-150 pickup truck. We plan to convert that over to have it used by our school resource officer. We had looked at making that change, having the F-150 become the SRO vehicle. It was a year or two ago, and for a variety of reasons, we ultimately didn't make the change at that point in time. The SRO vehicle right now is an asset forfeiture vehicle. It was seized by the Pawnee Prairie Drug Task Force quite a few years ago. It's been in place since Officer Gunderson basically has been back in the schools about 8 years, I think it is now. It's costing us more and more on repairs on that vehicle, and it technically isn't ours anyway. It is the task force vehicle, so it'll ultimately be reverted back to the task force if we're able to move on with this. I just think it's, especially in our climate, Corporal Gunderson would be better off driving the F-150 than he would the Dodge. Anyway, this would also allow us to get our fleet consistent, all 5 squads, and be able to be outfitted the exact same way. It doesn't matter which vehicle the officers jump into, they're all going to be set up the same way. The F-150 at this point in time, it just isn't really being driven very much. The advantage is we would still have it if we did have a reason to need it, have to haul something muddy, dirty, large. We'd still have the ability to have access to it for the rare occasions we need something like that, but the actual fleet would be better.
Cool.
Mr. Huttunen requested that I provide engine hours and miles on all the vehicles in our fleet. The next one after this one that we would be looking to replace possibly next year would probably be our K9 vehicle. As you can see, the engine hours on that one are getting fairly high. Big factor there, of course, is with the K9 in the vehicle anytime. Squad cars oftentimes, because they tend to, there's so much electronics in there, you tend to have the batteries go down quickly if you have them shut down. But even more important with the K9, you obviously, especially in the summer, you can't have that vehicle turned off. It's got to be running if the dog's in the car. So it's basically 12 hours a day that car is running when it's on duty. Just if there may be any questions about anything specific, but that won't be for at least another year.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Chief. Any questions for Chief Hedlund? Mr. Helms, the hot corner over there.
What kind of repairs have had to put into that drug task force?
I know we had to do some major work with the air conditioning and the driver's seat this past year. That was last spring. It was no longer functioning, so that was a very expensive repair, but we did it. We just didn't have much choice sometimes. We didn't really have another option for him.
So basically just kind of maintenance is what it is. It's not really, it's not really anything different than, anybody else driving a car would have to do. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're putting a transmission or a motor in it or something like that.
I honestly would. I'd have to talk to the mechanics. I don't recall the exact specifics.
And this thing's only got 70,000 miles on it?
I'm not sure I'm honest.
So, and I talked about this once before when we wanted to get rid of it. That car is an icon to those students at school. That pickup is going to mean nothing to them. The pickup, you wanted to get that so you could use that in case you had to pick up bikes and anything else you had to pick up in the city. So then if you're going to turn around and give that, to me, the cost of running that pickup back and forth to the school with the fuel you're going to use and everything is not going to save you any money over that car you have right now. And that, in my book, in my eyes, we don't need anything really new and fancy to take to the high school to park there all day long, and that's why this car that you have right now.
The pickup would be what would be used by the school resource officer.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying that's why I say that pickup, driving it from the PD to the school or from his home to the school or whatever, is probably going to use a whole lot more gas than what that car is using right now. So it's going to cost you more to operate that. And you got, that pickup has, 84,000 miles on it. So it's got more miles on it right now than what that car does. So I would think that pickup is probably going to start costing you some repair money also, some maintenance.
Potentially.
So I'm still I'm totally against getting rid of that
As I
drug car.
mentioned in my request for council action, we do plan to take the striping off and have it restriped, so it will be distinctly the school resource officer vehicle. So we are planning definitely, it's not gonna just look like another squad car, it will be distinctly the SRO vehicle.
The pickup, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that. But what I'm getting at is that car it's cool to kids. You know, that pickup is not cool to kids, and they look at that and they pay attention to that. It makes a difference. And if you get rid of that car, what are you going to do with it? What's your plans with that car?
It's not ours, it's owned by the task force. It was
So-
seized by the task force, so we'd go back to the task force and they would probably sell it.
So the car is basically free for you to use right now. I mean, other than making repairs on it.
That's true.
So I'm against getting rid of that car and put a pickup up there to drive to the high school and let sit there all day long. It doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Helms. Any other comments?
I got a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
Thank you. Chief, you mentioned the pickup truck right now isn't used much,
No.
so why do we need a new one?
It's, if we're at full staffing, it could be used, or if we're, if we ever have a vehicle that's down for repairs, which is common, you have to have enough cars to be able to, just like we have to have extra officers, we have to have enough vehicles to be able to staff those officers. So we typically will have at least one extra squad car over and above what our maximum staffing is. Normally we could have up to 4 officers on the street, so our fleet is typically 5 vehicles. And that's kind of what it comes down to.
Right.
Okay. Mayor Olsted.
I think what you need to do for next week, if we bring this forward, is to find out what actually the costs are, repairs, just so that if there is something that the mechanics are saying, well, yeah, this is,
Okay.
I think that's probably prudent, just so everybody knows.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
Is there a request by the task force to have that other vehicle back?
Not at this point.
Not at this point. And what was the initial thought process in providing it to the cities?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
So why do we have the car in the first place?
We were looking for a vehicle for the school resource officer. This was a vehicle that had been seized. And we put a request into the task force. It was approved. That allowed us to get a essentially no-cost vehicle at the time, other than doing the striping and some minor modifications. It is, as Mr. Holmes stated, it's very distinctive, which is a neat thing. And if we could get another vehicle through another asset forfeiture, we would gladly do that. But then we don't get that many vehicles this anymore. There's fewer and fewer asset forfeitures, and it has to be a good enough vehicle that's going to be able to be used in that manner. The majority of the vehicles that we get through asset forfeiture, we wind up selling for $2,000 to $5,000. They're not anything that's good enough to basically put in and use in this type of situation, for the most part.
So at this point, there is not a request to have that other vehicle back by
No,
the task force?
it's more, in our opinion, in my opinion, and from talking to, I guess I don't know that I've talked to our current city mechanic. I know I talked to our previous city mechanic, and he was considering last year, when it came down to the seat repair, which was quite expensive, he was questioning whether we should even do it at that point in time.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments? Mr. Riopel.
I think the point we're skirting here is that we're trying to find a way, we've got some outstanding debt that we're trying to find a way to cover it. And this is one area we could be looking at saying, hey, maybe we push it off for another year, save that money right now. But yeah, I'd like to see what the mechanic says about the cars. We'll get that next week. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Push it off, but even as little as the pickup truck, the reason it's not driven is because it's got 84,000 miles and it's 7 years old. It's not as comfortable as the SUVs that are significantly newer. I think it's human nature. The officers are going to jump into the SUVs that are newer, nicer vehicles, more comfortable. The SUVs are typically more comfortable to drive around in than a pickup truck. So we have a couple officers that drive it fairly regularly. The majority don't. If that squad car is their office, that's where they spend a large number of hours every day. And it's, there's a variety of factors that come into play on which vehicles we need. But if it's driven for even another year at patrol status versus on a squad car, they're driven versus the SRO, excuse me. It's going to reach a point where we'll have to do, at some point in time, no matter what, the Charger's going to have to go. And the the pickup truck's only going to have so much life as well. So sooner or later, we're going to have to get a different vehicle for the SRO, but we're also going to need a new vehicle in patrol. So I guess I'm trying to push off the SRO vehicle a little bit by making this switch, because it's tougher and tougher for the Challenger, the Charger, to be able to be used, and not to mention it's a two-wheel drive vehicle in our climate. The majority of the school year, we've got snow on the ground.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Tammy.
Is the school resource officer vehicle used just 9 months?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, because you can't really jump in that and patrol the streets in the summer. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
Along with Mr. Riopel, I have issues looking at, like, if we're talking, I understand there's hours on the engine, but mileage-wise, my vehicle's got 145,000 miles on it, and it's got a lot of time left in the engine. If we're replacing these vehicles before 100,000 miles, to me, that's a standard, if a vehicle doesn't make it to 100,000 miles, why are we buying these vehicles? They should be lasting longer.
I'm not trying to be sarcastic here, but to be honest with you, it's going to sound like it. Do you need to respond to emergencies in your car?
No.
Okay, our officers do. They need to get into that car and know it's going to start.
Thank you.
All right. Any further comment? Okay. All right. Thank you, thank you, Chief. We'll move on to item number 7 then. Request for approval of updated Fire Relief Association bylaws. Chief Boushee.
Thank you, Council President, Council, and Mayor. I have with me tonight Mr. Andrew Robertson. He's our Relief Association President. He's here to answer any questions you might have. What we're here for is recently our Relief Association passed a revision to the bylaws of the association, and by Minnesota state statute, we're required to get council approval for that change. The approval or the revision we made was to a benefit level. Revision was to move it to $5,400 a year, and that's shown on the attachment we included. And it has no budgetary impact to the city, and our recommendation is to approve this revision.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Any questions for the fire department here? All right, I see none. Thanks, guys. Okay, let's go to page 2 here. Item number 8, request to advertise for library director position. Mr. Huttunen and Ms. Helgeson.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. This is an easy one. I am going to retire as of April 10th this year, and it has been suggested that we talk about it at a work session before we just do the vote at a regular meeting. So I'm asking that the council will start advertising for this position. The library board will be looking at this same recommendation next week on Wednesday, and they will have their vote on to advertise. They will also review the job description. And so we hope to have it out on the city ads by the beginning of February, and we will put it also out to library professional agencies. So, are there any questions?
Thanks, Charlotte. Any questions? Mayor?
I think, I don't know, I've talked to Charlotte about this in the past, kind of wanting to make sure that we take our time doing this, because we want to make sure we're getting the right person and not just saying, congratulations, retirement, oh, now we got to hire someone. I think it's an asset of the city that is very important to a lot of people, and we want to make sure we're getting the right people in there and continue what you've continued to do for years and years for the city. So, but I think we can take our time, we can look at people, we'll get the right person, and then we can go from there.
Go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, or we could just not advertise for it and tell her she has to stay. We could do that.
Turn down her request, you said?
Yeah, turn
we
down
do
that
that?
request and then she'd have to stay. We could do it that way.
Is that the hard way? Is that what we call it? All right. Go ahead, Reid.
If I may, I think it might be a good time to talk a little bit about the process, the search process. We've talked, Ms. Helgeson and I have talked. Certainly the library board is a fantastic group, probably the best functioning, and no slight to other boards, but probably the best functioning volunteer board we have in the city. And that's a lot to the credit of Charlotte and her work. But we would expect that board be very involved in the review and interview process. We'd advertise it regionally and locally, as Charlotte described, but that would be internal through the city. In other words, we wouldn't use a paid search service to do the advertisement. And when it comes time to interview, civil service would initially be involved in the initial round of interviews and then pass a group of finalists on to the library board. Charlotte, certainly at your discretion, Charlotte could have an involvement in sitting in that if the timing works out right, and then I would be involved. We've talked about having a kind of a meet and greet for department heads and city council members to be able to come and meet the candidates, as we've done with some other positions. But aside from Mr. Helms being the library board council member assigned, we wouldn't have a sit-down interview with the full city council, at least as we're planning it right now. So we don't need an answer on that tonight, but if there is a really strong conviction to do it otherwise, we should know that, within the next few weeks here before we really get an advertisement out, so we can plan accordingly.
We've also had library patrons who have been past board members and volunteers at the library who have said that they would gladly step up and be part of a committee, at the meet and greet perhaps. So, because they work honestly more daily with a library director, so that is potentially a piece of it too.
If the timing works out, is there an opportunity where the new library director would start and there'd be some overlap with you for some on-the-job training?
There can be a phased retirement, so my hours would be decreased. I'd be an hourly paid employee of the city. Yeah. And depending upon who you hire, if it's somebody with a good amount of experience, we hope, then it would just be introducing them, getting them up on our schedules, those kinds of things. So for a short period of time, that would be my hope.
Great. Okay. Any other questions for Charlotte or Reid? Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to item number 9 then. Request to authorize bond sale for recreation facility improvement projects. Mr. Huttunen.
Okay, thanks again, council members. We talked about this briefly towards the end of the year in 2025, presented the schedule for the sale of bonds for the recreation projects. The time is coming to pass a resolution authorizing the sale of those bonds. That's something we would have on the agenda at our meeting next week. We are proposing, with the work with help of Baker Tilly, the financial advisor, helping with the sale for us, having a total bond amount of $12,540,000, and then there's some additional premium bonding items to bring the total bond available for sale to $13,300,000. $32,275. I think maybe the biggest thing to note on that is the VFW arena. We were bonding for the full $8 million that was authorized by the sales tax vote. At the Civic Center, we are only requesting bonds for $4,745,000. There's an additional $2 million authorized by that vote that we had earmarked to go towards baseball field projects that will need additional funding to be able to get those across the finish line. So we're not bonding for them today. We can't bond for them today because it needs to be a phased project, and we don't have that project ready to break ground. But we will have the ability to go back and take a future bond when the time comes that we want to pursue that project. We have the authorization to collect the sales tax funds for 20 years or until the bonds are paid off, and would be able to go back and take additional bonds whenever that time would come. So this would initiate the sale. Baker Tilly's been working through all the advertisements and the pre-issuance reports. January 26th, Ms. Anderson and I have a meeting scheduled to present East Grand Forks as a community and our ability to be able to handle the bond proceeds and to be able to pay it off in a timely manner with potential purchasers of the bonds. And then the sale itself is scheduled for Tuesday, February 17th at 11 a.m. And then those results of the sale would be presented and accepted or brought forward for acceptance to the City Council at the meeting that evening.
Okay, thanks, Reid. Any questions for Reid on the item? Go ahead, Dale.
Thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when did the $2 million for the baseball field get put into that bonding? I thought that was all going to be fundraised for all that to do that project.
So we're not including it in the request for bonding. When we advertised the ballot question to the community and described to them what we plan to do, there was $2 million of that $6 million for the Civic Center site that we said was earmarked to go towards the ball field project. That was all done through the promotion of the sales tax back before the vote.
My understanding that the ball field was like a wish list that had to be all fundraised for. And the money, the sales tax money was all going to be reimbursed for the city and the media.
Yeah, and I couldn't say the date that it was, but I know that Mr. King through Parks and Rec would have brought those presentations through council to describe how we plan to do that. And it is still partly, that's why I said it's a phased project. I'd still say it's partly a wish list, in that the ball field is not doable with just $2 million alone. There's going to need to be additional funds, whether that be through private fundraising or other forms of financing, to make that project a reality. But that was part of what was promoted to the voters before the vote.
Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Huttunen? All right, I see none. Looks like that brings us to the end of our agenda for the work session. With that, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Pukshavinsky.
Second.
Second by Riepel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. Work session is closed. And then council, please hang around for a closed session meeting.